Well, this is what I get after a fun Celtics regular season. Kevin Durant in round one. Let's look at this play here. You'll notice immediately, Time Lord played in the last game these two teams met each other. He's probably not going to be there for round one. He switched onto KD onto that possession, and that's the first conversation I want to have. What is the defensive game plan against Kevin Durant? They could say to themselves, well, if we switch, which of course the Celtics like to do, we can keep him out of the paint as much as possible, or at least attempt to. The obvious reply to this is, it's Kevin Durant, good luck. Not just because of the shot making, but also, if Al Horford is switching onto him, call me crazy, but I think KD is going to be able to get some separation on the guy. Their best candidate for contesting KD jumpers off of switches was Time Lord, and even then that was going to be tough. Daniel Tice has gotten a lot of the Robert Williams minutes, and if they're going to be switching, KD's going to get his opportunities on him. Same thing with Al Horford, and my gut is that Kevin Durant, even with how great the Celtics defense is, he's going to be Kevin Durant. My question for the KD ISOs and post-ups, how often will we see Tatum defending Durant? Tatum is very good on defense, but you can't ask the dude to guard KD for 40 minutes a game and do everything on offense for you. Next question that I have is, where do you bring that extra attention against KD from? Well, if we can run this play back, you'll notice that Robert Williams, again, not going to have him, he was pretty much ignoring Bruce Brown on this play. Bruce did shoot 40% from three this year, but he only took about one a game. Teams are willing to gamble on leaving him open. And I'm sure you'll see some Bruce Brown jump shots, but really it's about how can he turn those opportunities into inside scoring, because that's what he loves to do. Get into that floater, cut when the defense is ignoring him. He sets a lot of screens. If you're going to have a tough time dealing with KD and Kyrie, and we'll talk about Kyrie in a second here, and Bruce Brown's also getting like 12 points a game off of this sort of stuff, then you're going to have a tough time. There's also times where he might not be the one scoring, but his extra activity gets them the next shot off of a double team. Seth Curry made that three off the Bruce Brown pass, and this is one thing with the Celtics defense on top of the switching is that they really love to dare guys who are not the main dudes to beat them. It's a little tougher to do that when Seth Curry is one of those dudes. Like you have to stay glued to the guy, even with his ankle thing. Well, up to a certain point. Of course, you still have to provide help defense. You can say the same things about Patty Mills, as well as Goran Dragic. Seth, Mills, Dragic, we'll talk about him on defense, but hey, dudes can shoot, and that matters. As for guarding Kyrie, the last game they played, it was kind of a mixed bag with how they chose to guard him. They had Horford switch on this one. Other times they had Horford dropping on Kyrie and daring him to beat him from mid-range. Smaller guy like Grant, that was a switch pretty fast. Grant Williams is going to get a lot of minutes. He has played a role in this defense. There will be your possessions where it's just Kyrie versus Marcus Smart. I do like Marcus's odds there to bother Kyrie more than your average guard, but it's not like it's just going to be isolations all day. Let's talk about the Nets' big guys for a little bit, and we can hopefully get to the Celtics offense soon. So one thing with the switching defense is it usually leaves your big guy with a smaller dude on him. Will the Nets ever care that Andre Drummond could have some wings and guards on him throughout this series? I don't know. Another thing with Drummond is there's a chance he could grab a whole bunch of offensive rebounds in a game or two, and that could be a problem. Can the Nets rely on Claxton to score anything besides easy stuff at the rim? I would mention LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin, but they haven't gotten a whole lot of minutes lately. Now we move on to the Celtics offense. So the frustrating thing here is that some of these clips end up with Time Lord getting a bucket. But you will see that the game plan, for the most part with Andre Drummond, was to drop, but not super drop, if you know what I mean. They lost Time Lord on the back line on that one. Here it's a Jaylen Brown pull-up jumper. This is another Drummond drop, although this time Time Lord cuts to the basket and they lose him again. The Celtics can ask Daniel Tice to do this. It's not going to be as effective. The big thing with the Drummond dropping stuff is that if you're going to be dying on the screens, then Jason Tatum might just kill you. So we'll see how Drummond holds up. We'll also see how these guards play defense on the Nets, because Tatum's got quite a few dudes he can go at in a mismatch. And the Celtics have experimented more with him setting screens, trying to get those switches, so he could do that against somebody like Kyrie, Patty Mills, Goran Dragic. All those little guards who play a role for the Nets offense, well, they can be kind of picked apart on defense. Of course, you got Bruce Brown. He's tough. But there's only one Bruce Brown. And the thing is, KD was not on Tatum that much in this game. He still had some possessions on him, of course, but What is the perfect thing? Is it KD on the ball or KD as a help guy? Also, similar to Tatum, you don't want to ask KD to guard him all game and then do everything for you on offense. So I don't know what the right balance is. I am intrigued to see Nick Claxton defensively in this series. You got to give him a better shot to play on the perimeter as opposed to Drummond, right? Whether that means it's actually going to work, I don't know. But when you compare the Drummond dropping to Claxton coming up real high on this Tatum pull-up three, it is interesting. And now I'm talking over a picture for the last little bit. So, of course, Tatum has gotten better as a passer. I think the best thing you can do if you're the Nets, besides obviously like gambling on Horford and Smart and all that, you want to time the help perfectly to where you're coming from like behind Tatum, as opposed to going too early and he's like, oh, well, there's the open guy. Unless you're just content with leaving certain dudes open. The obvious ones being Smart and Horford, but also Tice. If you left Time Lord open for half a second, that could result in a lob or whatever. With Tice, I think you've got a little bit more leeway in that sort of thing, especially if Tice is at the corner and not at the dunker spot or whatever. The one thing with Tice is that he will shoot the corner three, whereas with Time Lord, you didn't want that. Whether he's going to have a good shooting night or not, that's a different question. Another thing is Grant Williams has become an amazing corner three-point shooter. It's not as easy to leave him open. Derek White is going to be a bit of an X factor with his shooting, but of course the thing with White and something the Celtics have embraced, especially since he showed up, was like running more handoff actions, more cuts to the basket, more random screens, like similar to the Tatum screening for the ball handler. Derek White will just screen for somebody off ball and then they can cut, so it gives them more value if maybe the defense is like, we don't really need to guard you every single possession when you're spotting up, right? To finally talk about Jaylen Brown, I feel like a lot of the things you say about Tatum with going at some of these guards, you can also apply it to Jaylen. The thing is that if you're the Nets, you're a little more willing to dare Jaylen to take a pull-up mid-range when Drummond is dropping. You might feel like you have a little bit more liberty towards helping or throwing extra attention to Jaylen because maybe he won't be able to handle it as well as Tatum can. But it still comes back to like a lot of these dudes for the Nets are just not very big, or it's like Drummond who is doing the most he can with just, again, dropping on defense pretty much. And this is why I come back to the whole Kevin Durant as a help defender. I mean, maybe the secret to the Nets defense is they have KD on somebody that you can at least feel okay about helping off of, and just, weak side attention, and hopefully he can still close out to whoever it may be and all that good stuff. Have I forgotten anything? I don't know. I guess there's the chances that Ben Simmons might show up in this playoff series. There was a little thing on Twitter about that. Anyway, I think I'm going to take the Celtics. They are better defensively than the Nets. Even with Time Lord out, the defense is still very good. They move the ball better than the Nets, I would say at this point. I mean, the Celtics have progressed so much in that area. Even if I do still love your Bruce Brown cuts and just general existence to create stuff off of double teams. I mean, I didn't mention Horford that much. Like, he plays a role in keeping the swing offense moving and all that. But it's KD and Kyrie, man. The shot making could be so good that the Nets could pull the series off. I think the Celtics are a better team. But when you have the best player, and we'll see where Kyrie ends up ranking compared to Tatum and Jaylen in the series, but that can be enough to swing a series, so we'll see. But yeah, I'll take the Celtics. The safe pick would be 6 games. If I really just want to drive myself crazy, I'll say 7 games. But it'll be a good time. Not for me. I'm going to be a nervous wreck throughout the thing.